So we are together going to find out what is the cause of conflict, the core, the root of it. And of course, if you admit that conflict is inevitable, it's natural, as human beings for the last millennia have lived in conflict, so why shouldn't we also? That kind of argument is rather, if I may say, rather silly and inept. But if one could go into examine, perceive, have an insight into the causation of conflict, and then perhaps that will end. To discover the cause, it's not a process of analysis. Analysis implies, doesn't it, the analyzer and the analyzed, right? The one who says, I must find the cause of this conflict, as though it was something outside of him, then he analyzes that. Is not the analyzer the analyzed? Please go into this with a little bit, if you will. We're asking, is not the analyzer, or put it differently, is the analyzer different from that which he analyzes? Who is the analyzer? Apart from the professional psychologists, psychiatrists, and so on, in this, what we are doing now is to understand the causation of conflict. Is that conflict, the cause, is that to be analyzed? Then if you are analyzing the cause, then who is the analyzer? Right? Is the analyzer different from that which he analyzes? You understand my question? Am I talking to myself? Are you really interested in all this? Please, don't encourage the speaker. It's not worth it. Are you really interested in all this?
Yes.
No, please. This is very serious, you understand? It's not just something for an hour. It's your life. It's your way of living, the whole question of love and tenderness, care, affection, all that's involved in this. It isn't just agreement with the speaker, which is so becomes rather absurd. If you're really deeply interested in this, which is to find out for oneself, not from the speaker, but for oneself, to find out the cause of conflict. And when there is the discovery of the cause, then the effect disappears, then because any cause can be changed. If one has a toothache or a headache, it has a cause. And when you find the cause, that disease disappears. Similarly, if we can find out the cause or the causes of why we live in perpetual conflict, and to delve deeply into that is not a process of analysis, because analysis implies a division between the analyzer and the analyzed. And therefore, in that process of analysis, there is still conflict. I hope you understand all this. But if we could observe the fact or come upon the fact of the cause, which demands attention, care, deep urge to find out, passion to step out of this conflict, that requires energy. An analysis is a process of wastage of energy. So, is it possible to observe, clearly perceive, have an insight into the causation of conflict? If you can find out the causation, then this thing disappears altogether, the effect, which is conflict. So we are asking, is the cause thought? Thought itself. Let me first, the speaker putting out these things. Don't agree or disagree, we're going to examine. Is the cause, duality we have, division between what I am, what I should be. The should be is a projection of thought. That is, one does not like the way one is living or is painful. Therefore, one projects a concept of a better way of living, an ideal, and conforming oneself to that ideal. And therefore, conflict, and the actual and the ideal. Then, is that one of the causes of conflict? Which means we never face actually what is. Right? Always moving away or escaping from actually observing the actuality, the pettiness of our life, the idiosyncrasies and so on.
Kamleshji, are you able to?
Clearly seen, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, I am able to listen to you. Was the audio clear, sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You can start, sir.
Okay. Good evening, friends. I am requested to say something about this video, about this subject, which is what is the root cause of conflict. As Krishna ji said, conflict is very, very widespread. Almost all human beings for thousands of years, they have gone through this conflict with other human beings and also within themselves. If we look, and this conflict with someone else, it can lead to war also. And that is what has happened. The war between Rama and Ravan in Ramayana, and the war between Kaurav and Pandavas in Mahabharata thousands of years ago, because there was a conflict between Ram and Ravan, and that led to war. And it is basically, it was the war between dharma and adharma, between good and evil. And these wars have been going on even now, like between Israel and Palestine, and between Russia and Ukraine. These wars are going on because of the conflict between the countries, and mostly it has to do with the religious ideology in the case of Israel and Palestine, and it is to do with the ideology, nationality in the case of Russia and Ukraine. So these ideologies, religious ideologies, nationalistic patriotism, all this, and desire to occupy a land which belongs to someone else. And so there is a conflict between America and China, and India and China, India and Pakistan. It's all based on nationalism and religious conditioning. So conflict exists in the family also, between father and son, or between husband and wife, between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And we read in the newspaper every day this conflict. It leads to anger, and sometimes anger leads to murder or suicide. And there is a lot of war in a country like India, suicide or murder, in spite of having law and having everything, money and power, sometimes even very important people, very famous people, because of some problems in relationship, they commit suicide. So this conflict with another human being in the office, in the schools, in every organization, this conflict exists. And conflicts, since I was a teacher in Krishnamurti schools, conflict existed even in all the schools which Krishnamurti founded. Conflict in students, between two students. So sometimes they will be fighting and they will come to the teacher or the housemaster to resolve their conflict. And sometimes between teachers, conflict, even sometimes in the administrators. So in any organization where many people are working, and different people have a different way of looking at a issue, problem. And even among scientists like Newton and Einstein and Niels Bohr, about the meaning of quantum physics, they had a dialogue for many, many years, and they really could not come to any agreement. So conflict exists, and now Krishna ji is talking about the conflict within us, human beings. And Krishna ji is investigating what is the cause behind the conflict within oneself. As for example, if I am getting angry and I want to be free from anger, then there is a conflict. I want to live peacefully, but so many thoughts and feelings, they are not allowing me to live peacefully. So there is a conflict. So Krishnamurti's teachings are about the conflict within oneself. And the cause of this conflict is that there is some problem like fear or anger or jealousy, and then there's a problem, and then there is a desire to be free from the problem. So in Krishnamurti's language, there is a conflict between what is and what should be. So what Krishna ji is suggesting, that instead of trying to escape into what should be about the solution, can we look at the problem itself? That why am I getting angry? If I am getting angry when somebody says something, what is behind it? Can I really look at? Is it because I have some ideas about myself that I am very intelligent, I am very good, and somebody criticizes me and says that you are selfish, you are doing it for yourself, you know. So I don't like it, what the somebody says, because it really hurt my idea of what I have, that I am good and intelligent. So I get angry, and then after I get angry, then I regret, and I feel that I should not have been angry. I should have listened to what the other person said. So what is required in Krishnamurti's teachings is to look at what is that anger, and not after anger had happened, but while the anger is arising in oneself. That means it requires ongoing awareness of what is happening within us. And without that ongoing effortless awareness, we will react and not respond. Responding is something different than reacting. And mostly, when there is no awareness, we react with anger, and like action and reaction are equal and opposite. That is a Newton's third law of motion. That if somebody is saying something unpleasant to me, I say unpleasant to the other human being. So action and reaction, and that is how our life is lived in conflicts. So if we are really interested deeply to be free from these reactions and want to learn how to respond with clarity, then we have to look at whatever we have gathered, whatever images we have, false images about ourselves. So it and everything is related to thinking, because from thinking comes all our problems. Even this person called I or me, it is coming from thinking. And our life is lived mostly in thinking and feeling. So only when we become very, very curious to look at the beginning of our thoughts, when we become very, very curious, very attentive, very energetic, free in the beginning to look, then we may find that our mind really stops. And there is some kind of a different dimension comes into existence in our life, what is called intelligence or awareness. And then, even then, if it is has happened once, it will go away. And then again, we can get lost into thinking and reacting. So it depends on us. Are we really deeply interested in looking inside? What is it which is creating problems for me? Not blaming other people, not escaping into something entertainment because there is a disturbance, try to escape. So every disturbance which happens in our life is an opportunity to look deeper, that why do I get disturbed? So only when we have such attitude to learning about ourselves and being free, then only maybe we can be able to help some people. Like if I'm a teacher, if I have many problems, if I get angry when student criticize me, I can't change student. It requires freedom, it requires intelligence, it requires real affection without any cause. So only when such qualities come in our life, then we can speak about what Krishnaji has said or what we feel, how we have experimented in our life. And so then there's some kind of authenticity comes only when there is a freedom and silence, awareness. So, and we cannot solve the problem of the world, the problem which humanity is facing. Even somebody has a problem of drinking or some conflict between father and daughter. Like recently, I came into contact with a father and his daughter, and they both had a conflict. And I listened to both of them. Then I can tell them what is the cause behind their conflict. And they can listen, but then they have to investigate in their own life. And if they do it, anybody can be free. But it requires real curiosity and real passion to understand our own self, to see how we are creating the problem, not somebody else. And then when there are many, many people who are free from problems, their personal problem, then maybe they can affect the society. Then there may be a possibility of avoiding war. But without solving the war going on within us, we cannot solve the problem of war between countries, international wars, and all that. So, all that discussion about what um, Trump should do or what Putin should do, and all that kind of discussion, dialogue, it doesn't help. Krishnamurti's teachings are about looking at our own self and seeing everything clearly and becoming free and then living a good, happy life and maybe helping some people if they want our help. We cannot help other people if they don't want our help because people want to live the way they are. And many times people say, I am the way I am, I can't change. So when people give up changing their own self, then conflict remains within themselves, with other human beings, and it leads to war and all that. Okay, I have said enough thing right now. Thank you.
Dinesh ji. Dinesh
Are
Waghmare
you
ji.
able, are you able to hear my voice, sir?
Yes, your
Yeah,
voice
yeah.
is coming.
Okay. Actually, today's subject is conflict, about conflict. We have already discussed in detail earlier on 25/7/2024 when there was a subject Chidananji has taken living in conflict, genesis and implications. So there we have already discussed in detail about this. So it is very clear at that time also. But now today I would like to take it in a different way. What JK has to say, a very short matter I have written, and that is in series 2, chapter 8, conflict, freedom and relationship, commentaries on living. JK says the conflict between thesis and antithesis is inevitable and necessary. It brings about synthesis, from which again there is a thesis with its corresponding antithesis, and so on. There is no end to conflict, and it is only through conflict that there can ever be any growth. So, growth, any advance. So, it is very clear. Time to time, he has also given various aspects of it, any subject, and looking to the people, he has spoken. Anyway, it may bring about secondary improvements, but it is not conflict in its very nature a factor of disintegration. Why do you insist that conflict is essential? We all know there is conflict at every level of our existence. So why deny or be blind to it? Ambition conflict is the way of man, and it can be used either against him or for him. Through conflict, we move to greater things. Conflict means what? Conflict between what has been and what will be. This already Harshad sir has taken point. To see this is essential, for then we shall experience the truth that the conflict is in any form destroys relationship understanding. Means this is true that it leads to further improvement, but at the same time it also destroys relationship and understanding. This also point has been taken by Harshad sir in a different way. There is understanding only when the mind is quiet, and the mind is not quiet when it is held in any ideology, dogmas, belief. The mind is not quiet when it is acquiring or becoming. All acquisition is conflict. All becoming is a part of isolation. The mind is not quiet when it is disciplined, controlled, and checked. Such a mind is a dead mind. The mind is quiet only when it is not caught in thought. So thought is the main factor which is creating conflict. But in my views, thought is only representative of inner conflict. Means inner views of a man or aspects which are coming through his own desires and other these virtues and parameters, psychological parameters, etc. Anyway, such a mind is a dead mind. The mind is quiet only when it is not caught in thought. which is the net of its own activity. When the mind is still, not made still, a true factor now comes into being. Nothing can be done about conflict in outer world. This point we have taken at that time also, and it was clarified at that time also that in outer world we can't do much about the conflict because everybody has got his own views and all that. And Harshad sir has also pointed out that if somebody is not interested in listening your views and for change, then conflict will be there. So nothing can be done about conflict in outer world. But I think one can do something very radical about our own inward conflicts. So, can the mind look at the totality of conflict? Totality of conflict means plus minus or duality or thought which is divisive and which creates the conflict. Live with it without accepting or denying it, without allowing the conflict to twist our minds. Despite of conflict, can the mind remain without twisted? I think it is possible. Not only possible, but when we have gone very deeply into it, whether when the mind is merely observing, when the mind is merely observing, not choosing it, then if one has gone as far as that, not in terms of time and space, but in actual experience of totality of conflict, then you will discover for yourself that the mind can live much more intensely, passionately, vitally, and such a mind is essential for that immeasurable something to come into being. This, in other ways, Harshad sir has also pointed out that other dimension will come into picture. So out in outer world, in nutshell, out in outer world conflict, we can't do much. But inside, we can understand the totality of conflict. We can understand why it is created because of this division and fragmentation and all that. And thought is, in my views, only making the recording. But in the nature itself, there is a fragmentation, there is a division. So automatically the recording in terms of thought becomes fragmented or division. Thought itself also is divisive. So this there is a message from Shakti Kumar. I will see later on. But there is a division, and thought is mainly divisive. So our mind is get disturbed because of thought, basically. And as JK suggested, you can work on it, neither accept it nor deny it, and be with it. Then there may be negation of it. Negation means since you have not given it any importance, no energy is given to it, and it will not trouble you again and again. Here, the important factor is again and again coming is energy. In this video also, he has talked about energy. So one has to have that fresh energy available, which he can do, which one can apply in terms of attention to the problem, and then only he can see that there is a change in that problem. So right now, thank you very much. We will see later on what anything comes.
Pradeep ji, please.
Yes. Good evening, friends. Well, the topic is very simple and complicated both. Simple in the sense, if it relates to each one of us to me directly to me with my conditionings and likings and dislikings. Straight to me. But it becomes circuitous. It becomes complicated when we take a circuitous route, what others have said about it. Whereas he wants me to be free, myself, as an individual, from my conflict, which may be entirely different, which he is talking of, n number of, because he was talking to a big population, a big crowd, different people at different times. So if we take that route, then it becomes complicated. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. Come to yourself. Am I in conflict? The straight question is, am I in conflict? And it was used, the one word was used, people are in perpetual conflict. Who can be in perpetual conflict? Who has isolated himself totally. Although totally word is also not that apt, but the person, if he has isolated with everything and everyone around, is bound to have conflicts everywhere, perpetual conflicts, as he has used. So, now the question is, how do we deal with our conflicts? Or rather, how do I deal with my conflict? He has very clearly mentioned, through him you can get straight, that by thinking, when he says we finding the cause by thinking, naturally memory, past and all that, and experience. So that is a sort of analysis that hardly gives you about what is you are right now, you are in conflict and you are trying to analyze it through thinking and thoughts. Then naturally, if you reduce these things, if you can see these things, you come back to seeing directly. He has used in this video also very straight attention, total attention right now. When I'm talking to you, do I have conflicts with your thoughts right now, listening to you? So that is the direct way of my conflict. If it is there, seeing it directly, and that means attention. So it is, then it becomes so simple, because all sorts of things are there as a source of conflict. So each one of us, all of us, specifically in my case, I have to see my conflict if there is, and how it is and what it is doing, and factually, seeing factually, he has used that word. So naturally attention becomes important. That is the only recourse. And why conflict happens? Because what is, you leave what is and go away what should be in you as per your likings, disliking, and whatever it is, but not comfortable with the present. So it is that simple. So in initial conflict is through fragmentation in me, and that is also not fixed. So again, I cannot rely on time, on cycles. So naturally, one has to be very attentive from moment to moment. That is the only recourse we have to find out and be free from our conflict. Thank you, friends. I have taken enough time. Thank you very much.
Prasad sir. Prasad sir, please.
Namaste, sir. I didn't hide myself today from Sushil ji. Sir, conflict is universal. As Harshad ji has said, there are two types of conflicts. One is inside oneself, inside an individual, and the other is with outside. He has also cited Mahabharata and Ramayana, etc. Sometimes conflict is inevitable. It is thrust on you. Ram could not escape conflict. He didn't want conflict. But what would he do in his circumstance? Similarly, Mahabharata also gives that type of situation where it becomes inevitable. Conflict becomes inevitable. So, the source of conflict, of course, is the mind itself. You can't escape it. In our, I mean, I would not like to say it, but one has to say it. JK himself could not escape a court proceeding. Court proceeding also is a kind of conflict. He could not escape it. But there is a world of difference between the way an enlightened person like K would face a situation like that and the way somebody like me would face it. For a K, I think, I presume, of course, I have no evidence. I presume he would not have any rancor against the other party. He would not allow himself to get into a situation of anger. He may prosecute the proceeding, but there would be no rancor, no ill will, no wishing of misfortune to the other party. That is where the difference between somebody like an enlightened person and the ordinary person would remain. And then, what is the basis for this conflict? Ultimately, the basis is the observer in you. The observer being your personality, your tradition. All these things, your tradition. The Muslim has a particular tradition, Christian has a different tradition. So there is conflict. So, one may say it is a thought. Thought is the source of conflict. So what can we do? We have to realize the limitations placed on us by thought, which means, can we empty our mind? Can the mind be empty? That is the only situation where you have no conflict at all. Otherwise, we get into conflict because of our greed. We have greed inside us, and we are greedy. We occupy somebody's territory. We get into conflict. or the other party has that greed and he occupies our territory, and you have no option. So greed, ambition, etc. are the source of conflict. You can't. Then one may say, all right, let him occupy some territory. What happens? Everything is impermanent. So even if he occupies, how does it matter? I mean, I have enough to survive, to live by. So why do I have a conflict? I mean, if I am really liberal, I may take that view also, in which case I would escape the conflict. When you cannot take that type of attitude, when conflict becomes inevitable, as in the situation of K, because there the funds of other people are involved, and not simply his funds. So he had to fight. But even when he is fighting, he has no rancor against the other party. So that type of mind can we have? We can have it only when we observe ourselves. Nobody else can teach us, how to have such a mind. Their observation is the only choiceless observation, as he puts it. Then, of course, inside us, there is so much of conflict, not with other parties. In the video, he says it is the conflict between what is and what should be. There is what is in you, and at the same time, you are not happy with it. You want something else. You want some ideal. So, what is and what should be, that is the conflict in you. That is one major conflict. But ultimately, it is the duality. He called that duality. That is conflict between what is and what should be. Is the duality. That is what he said in this video. But otherwise, basically, we all have that other duality, the basic duality, the separateness, You are separate from me, I am separate from you. The statement, you are the world and the world is you, that is only a kind of slogan for us. It is only a kind of statement. So, that is not a reality. That is not something which is felt in our blood. When that happens, awesome. So, when that is there, when that feeling gets into you, really, then possibly there won't be much conflict. Otherwise, we are all having our own separate paths, and even between husband and wife, he has said so many times, even between husband and wife, she has her ambition, you have your ambition. So we live together, but we don't have that understanding or that empathy between us. So these are all aspects of conflict. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shakti ji, please unmute and say.
Yeah, please, the basic conflict, it seems, is between I and thoughts. Because when I imagines itself as separate from thoughts, and then there is a conflict, inner conflict. apart from the conflict between different thoughts. So as Prasadji said, this observation of the space within us, that is important. And in that we can inquire for ourselves whether the entity who is observing and whatever is being observed, are they one or are they two separate phenomena? So that is, I think, is very important, because if one can watch and understand the conflict within oneself, then it becomes easier to deal with the outer conflicts. Thank you.
Harshad, sir.
Yeah. Um, Dinesh ji read out something from an article by Krishnamurti from Commentaries on Living. And the person who comes to discuss with Krishna ji, he feels that this conflict is necessary. And only through conflict we grow. Because conflict means there is some disturbance. Sometimes something is not going right. And then either you ignore it or you try to do something about something which is not going right, like a lot of garbage or environment problem. And then there may be sometimes conflict. And out of that thesis and antithesis, synthesis comes in that article. That means something new happens due to conflict. So, in a way, that person is justifying conflict because out of conflict something new happens. And that is also, I have seen in all the novels written by Herman Hesse, is about conflict. Conflict between spiritual and sensual. Many sannyasis go through conflict. They try to suppress. Some people may come out of it, and some people can become mad. So we don't know whether it is really good to suppress our feelings. And most psychologists, they say we should not suppress because that will create more conflict. But some people can go through that conflict and still can come out if they are really have come to that intelligence which can see everything clearly. So even in students, young students, they don't want to study, but they have to study because they are sent to school and there is a lot of disturbance going on in their life. Parents want them to become somebody and their students are not good, but the parents are expecting them to be good. So a lot of conflict happens in the mind of student. And I have talked with such students. So conflict, even I think it exists in animals because I have seen one group of dogs fighting with another group of dogs, or one group of monkey fighting with another group. And within the group, the monkey wants to be the leader, the powerful, uh, who would like to be the leader. So conflict is everywhere. But maybe for human beings, it is possible to really look, examine, and maybe there is a freedom from conflict when we really can see the cause of the conflict as Krishnaji said in this video, that when we know the cause, we can be free. That is what Buddhism also says, that for suffering, there is a cause, there is an understanding, there is a freedom. So human beings are capable of going beyond this thinking, intellect, and come out and live in some kind of freedom, happiness, love, all these qualities. And that is what a kind of uh, that kind of evolution needs to happen in humanity, of really understanding the problems within oneself and then changing society. So I think no doubt we have discussed, Krishna ji discussed for 50 years the same problems everywhere. So, but the real question is that are we really new within ourselves to look, listen at what other people are saying, and not even saying that Krishnamurti is saying the same thing again and again. If we are listening to Krishnamurti without that freshness, newness, we will get bored even with Krishnamurti, because he is not telling something new. The real thing is this attention, where we can really look at what is and see the conflict between what some ideal we have and what the real thing. So even I think in Krishnaji's view, Gandhiji lived with the conflict. He had a non-violence concept. Instead of Krishnaji is looking at the anger, if we want to project non-anger, non-violence, then it becomes an ideal and then one has to fight with oneself. I don't know whether Gandhiji had conflict within himself, but some people, psychologists, say that yes, Gandhiji also had a conflict. Maybe I don't know about Krishnamurti. We cannot know the mind of other human beings, but we can see clearly our own mind. And if we have the conflict within us, whether we can see it clearly and be free from it. So that is the real challenge. That is what Krishnaji was trying to do in his schools and with his audience, to create that kind of attention which can see everything clearly as it is and not create the opposite of what is. Okay, so anybody would
Ravi
like to?
Kaushal.
Yeah.
Ravi Kaushal, please.
Yes,
Ravi
sir.
Kaushal, please unmute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yes,
audible, but not visible.
Okay, sir. So sorry, sir. I haven't listened the previous what K has taught, what K spoke about this conflict. But one statement I know that thing is that where there is division, there is conflict. So where there is division, there is conflict. So the division between me and you, the division between ideologies. Ideologies is in us, me and you. So the division between me and you, psychological division, not the way you live, not the way I live. That is not creating any division between me and you, but the psychological division between me and you. The psychological division between me and you. The psychological division, like ideological divisions like Hindu and Muslims, like British and Americans and Indians. So the hard question is that, are you free from that or not? I am I free from that or not? So to see this thing is, I think is one thing to see the these ideological poison to free your mind from free from all the ideological poisons is one thing, and then I think then there is something totally different thing, running in this consciousness. And otherwise it is all divisions and barbarian things and all all DNA things all animal kind of things, the divisions between group of dogs and all that, they are all millennia back between us, among us. So this is one thing. The root cause is division between me and you. Though now we have come from that barbarian things, which is the DNA of animal kind of animal come from the animal kingdom in us, and it has come into our psychology. And still there is one thing also there, which is free from all that, which is free from the psychology between me and you. So that thing, what create division between me and you? What create division between me and you? I think if I have, I don't know, but I don't know any division. But honestly speaking, I can say anything about what I can say that Modi is a bastard. There's no problem about that, but he's doing like that. So
Sir, not able to listen you. Sir, not able to listen you. Others are able to listen, Ravi Kaushal?
No, sir, we are not able to hear.
Yeah.
No,
Ravi,
not
we
able
are
to
not
hear.
able to listen you. Waghmare, please.
Actually, Mr. Ravi
Waghmare,
Kaushal has
please.
got Ravi Kaushal has got muted. Is he able to unmute himself?
Okay. Then please mute yourself.
okay,
Waghmare, mute
now
yourself.
I am
Let him
unmuted, sir.
unmute you.
Now I am
Yeah.
unmuted, sir.
Yeah. Please go
Okay,
on.
okay.
And take Waghmare's time also.
So I'm saying,
Permitted you. A
thank you,
great
sir.
thing.
Okay. So I'm saying that there's one has to see the division created. Uh, I mean, like when I say something about, let's say I'm saying something about Harshad Parekh on choiceless awareness, and I'm saying that the moment you have conclude that, it create that conclusion creates something different, which is not connecting to me. So, mm, mm, and that doesn't create any division in me. That doesn't create any, but I can say that there's no problem about that. I can say that Modi is not doing right things, and that doesn't mean that I am against Modi or against RSS or against any ideology. Because if I take any position, I become leftist. Uh, I don't take any position. But that doesn't mean I cannot say what is right, what I cannot say that how the things are going, factual things are going. If I see that any conclusion bring the moment you bring a conclusion, there is a concept. So when you talked about awareness, you are talking in concept, and you don't see that, and that doesn't mean that there is a division between me and Harshad Parekh. I mean, how can I say that? But this is how I don't see any division. Division between me and you. That thing I think is one thing one has to see all the time in day-to-day life while talking about anything, while seeing anything, while seeing any news, the perception development, and all those things which going in our country or in worldwide, like in Iran, Iraq, Iran, and this this what you अभी युद्ध कौन से चल रहे हैं यार? I mean, sorry, these Siberian what कौन से युद्ध चल रहे हैं अभी? दो मेरे दिमाग में नहीं आ रहे.
इजराइल और गाजा, गाजा पे जो वो हमास
Israel,
के
Gaza,
ऊपर
yes, sir, sorry, sir. And another is
another is Ukraine and Russia.
Ukraine and Russia. Yes, yes, sir. We are
Yeah,
responsible
now
for
he
it.
is speaking. Now he
I am
is speaking
responsible for
through
it. You
you.
are responsible for that. You
Waghmare is
are
speaking
responsible
through
for that.
you. Please take care.
Yes, yes, sir.
Waghmare
Sorry,
is
sir.
speaking through you now.
Yes, yes. Of course, उनकी memory का मैं कायल हूँ, sir. Really, he talked so much. All that knowledge and information मैं कायल हूँ उनका इस बात का. There is no doubt about that. And see, there is no division at all, and we can say totally rationally, no, in that scenario, I don't मैं किसी का लिहाज नहीं करूंगा, sir. This is one thing. So if you are not talking from if you're talking about awareness and you talked about this is that and this is that, you're talking in that terms, I'll definitely condemn that, and that doesn't mean that I'm in conflict with you. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Waghmare.
Okay.
Now, go on
Sir,
up to
basically
7
what I,
8
yes,
o'clock.
what I mean to say,
Yeah.
what is the
Take
basic
care of
problem
your throat, please. Throat is not in a good position. So take care of it. Don't speak loudly and speak less.
Okay, thank you. I would
Medical advice.
try to, yeah, okay. What I wanted to say, basically what I am experiencing my body, limitations and limitations of the body, right? And similarly, I want to expand it because I am having adequacies, I am having limitations and all that. So I wanted to, somewhere deep down in me, that pain is there. Now I wanted to change it. Unless I go to a level where I actually feel that there is no division between me and Sushil Kumar Jain, then only I can say that we are one or you are the world. So basically, unless one reaches to that dimensions which Harshad sir has been already talking or we have been discussing so long and JK has also pointed out. So unless we reach to that level, which he has also indirectly said, not directly said, that you should have energy. You should have energy, fresh energy. So unless we reach to that level where there is no practically difference, or if we have not reached to that level, unless that energy takes care of us, we can't say that basically I and you are one, or I and any plant is one. Okay, physically we will remain different. Physically we will remain different because of the body structure and all that. There will always be different. But unless from where this I am talking, or you listen, or you talk and I listen, at that level from where it is coming, at that level there is a platform of energy, and unless we reach to that level, we cannot cover up our adequacies or our limitations and all that. So then because that difference is there, that's why always conflict will be there. But I can cover that if I reach to that level. But since you are not on that level, you will condemn it. Or you will say, you will have your own agenda. You will try to cover it up in outer world by having more things, more assets and all that. You will be having vested interest and you will be greedy and all that. So there are so many things. So unless this difference is covered up, we can't say this. that there will be a radical transformation or any radical mutation sort of thing. So this we have to take care, and we have to understand this thing. And how many people will go for it? Again, as Harshad sir said, not many people will go for it. People will say no. We are happy in our own world, and we will be whatever we are doing, we will be, continue to do that. Then in that case, there is no point. You can try to explain them, but it is up to them to accept it or not accept it. And unless their acceptance is not there, it will the whole scenario of this world or this thing will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wanted to speak now? Or I must end it? Some people raise hand when I say this. Ravi Kaushal, still you are raising hand? You have not said? You are Kayal with Waghmare. I am Ghayal with Waghmare. This is the only difference between you and me.
Yeah, I like to say.
Yeah,
May
yeah.
I
Please,
say?
please go on.
Yeah. A teacher is one, and students are there listening to a teacher, and students are at different levels. Like when Buddha gave his first sermon to his 5 friends, one of them understood very quickly what Buddha was saying, and Buddha also said, "Yes, you have got it." So there are difference in people who listen to Krishnamurti. Some understand very quickly what Krishnamurti is saying, and some may take many years, and still they may be asking the same thing, same question, and no change in them. So, as Dinesh ji said, different people have a different level of understanding, energy, intelligence. So that is part of life. Uh, so only we can change ourselves if we are really interested and we give our whole attention, energy to look at ourselves and not finding faults with the world or family or other circumstances or past karma and all that. Because in India, people say it is because of my past life karma that I am suffering. So that kind of thing also prevents in looking now in the present moment. Okay, I have finished.
Mr. Prasad, you are not hiding from me. You have exposed by raising hand at 7:23. Please go on.
Thank you, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, there is nothing much to say, but only thing is we are all basically individuals. That is the whole problem. We have our own individuality, which means we have our own separateness. We are separate. And what are the factors of our separation? Your tradition, your family background, your language, all these things, they they produce you. You are an amalgam of all these things, all these factors. That we don't realize, one thing. And even if we realize, we don't want to accept. And we want to say, no, 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 my background is much better than yours. If I am a Christian, I would say, yes, I swear by the Savior. And I say, my Savior is everything. That is the whole problem which people don't recognize. Krishnaji, I think, for 60 years, he went on harping on this in different ways. And one thing, he just did not repeat himself. That is where some people think he has repeated himself. For me, each of his talks is different, slightly modified, because every time he is creative, he is new. So, while harping on while playing the same musical notes, it's a symphony. It becomes a new. But basically, we are all separate. We are stuck in our separation. You don't have to be the other guy, you know. Even if we say the world is, you are the world and the world is you, that need not simply be a concept. We can understand that. Even if we don't act on that, really speaking, in the sense that I don't give my property to you, I may not go to that extent, but I can realize that your thinking and my thinking are akin. They are similar. It is thought. It is that energy which takes the form of thought. For me and for you, it is the same. And basic instincts are the same. Your reproductive urges, your acquisitive tendencies, all these things, your concern for the afterlife, whatever it is, all these are similar factors. And to that extent, we are the world. And when you realize that, to some extent at least, I think, your tendency to get into conflict becomes much, much less. You don't like to get into that conflict. And even if you get into conflict, as I said earlier, you have no rancor against the other part. When you have no rancor, there is no conflict. You may take some steps which are necessary, which are as per law or as per social sanction, whatever. But you have no rancor. And a mind without a rancor, I think that is a free mind. And that is the type of freedom which we have to aspire to. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Harshad sir, would you please conclude now?
Yeah, I would say that when we understand ourselves clearly, we begin to understand other human beings also from where they are speaking. We can listen to them without immediately reacting. So, understanding ourselves as we are, that is a real freedom. And that removes all that conflict between what we would like to be. Then all that comparison with somebody, it goes away when we really understand, because each human being is unique. And comparison, trying to become like somebody, it has a very, it doesn't help. Okay, I think I have finished.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Kamlesh, would you please end it now?